TNT joins with the world on April 26 to commemorate that day and other intellectual property offices worldwide in celebrating what we know to be intellectual property. Now, on this day, we celebrate and learn about the role that intellectual property rights play in encouraging and innovation and creativity. This year, we are celebrating women and IP, which of course means that we're accelerating innovation and creativity in women. And joining me this morning to discuss that are exactly two women. So we have the technical examiner of the Intellectual Property Office of TNT, Ms. Folasade Bishop, and inventor of Dazzle fashion ruler, Ms. Rhona Jack. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you.
Before we begin the interview, I have to ask, Folasade, very interesting name. What does your name mean?
My name means honor confers her crown. It's Nigerian,
yes.
Yoruba language.
So I learned something today, thank you. So Folasade, I'm coming to you first. Intellectual property, what is intellectual property? And moving off of that as well, what is the role of the Intellectual Property Office in TNT?
Okay, so intellectual property means that we see it every day in our consumption of teas, cups, the studio, you know, the technology. So it's express creations of the human mind. It's not merely ideas, it must be physical.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And the role of the TTIPO?
Okay, so the TTIPO is a department in the Ministry, in the Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Legal Affairs. It's the department responsible for the education and registration of intellectual property rights.
Nice. I'm coming to you, Ms. Jack. Of course, you're no stranger to us on the Now Morning Show with the ruler that you invented.
Yes.
How have you been able to use intellectual property in your business?
Right, well, because I licensed it to a company in Denmark, the IP rights I had was to use to license it. Because if you don't have the rights for it registered, the company is not going to take your product. So I use that to license and even to do business.
Right. So it is not just to create something, but you have to get it licensed with somebody. Or with an organization?
There are two things. You could either manufacture it for yourself and sell it,
right.
Or you can license it to a company, or you could sell out the whole rights for it. But you have to have the rights in order to sell it.
Yes.
You have to have the rights in order to have a license deal with a company or to even engage a company. The first thing they ask you, do you have the rights for it?
So the purpose of licensing is so that you can have more sales, or
no,
what are the benefits then of having something licensed?
Many times you don't have the funds to manufacture your own stuff. You can license it to a company. It's like renting it to the company,
right. And
you receive royalties. Yes. Royalties could be 4, 5, 7, or 10% of the actual business or whatever you're doing with them. And they will manufacture and sell, and you just receive royalties from it.
And how important is it for you to own or to have your own license for your product?
You have to have the rights for your product.
Rights for your product.
Because if you don't have the rights, how can you engage anybody else with it? How can you access the market with it? You can't sell your product in Walmart and all these big companies without you have the rights for it. So intellectual property is so important, especially, and now even trademark, because your brand. Everybody now is copying people's brand.
Yes, they are.
And I have my rights for my product, which is my trademark.
So if anybody copies your product, you can take legal action because it is your product. You have the rights for it and that sort of thing.
Yes.
That is amazing. How do more people not know about this? I mean...
Well, the Intellectual Property Office actually conducts public outreach to schools and institutions, government, to bring awareness to intellectual property and the rights that could be afforded to persons who are creatives and so on.
Yeah. And what is the role and importance of IP in any business? I mean, Ms. Jack spoke from an entrepreneur and an inventor side. But if you have somebody who's coming to the office to get that sort of information, what sort of benefits can you share in terms of having them getting involved in IP?
Okay, so intellectual property rights gives you the exclusive right to grant permission for persons to use your product and services. So you have the right to say no, yes, or even bring an action for infringement and so on. If you don't have the rights, then you can't bring actions against the person that quote-unquote, infringing on your rights.
It as at any point, for example, if it is somebody has the rights to their product, can they come to the IPO and say, listen, this person is copying me, and the TTIP office can get involved?
Okay, so we are more of an advisory to government and patent attorneys or intellectual property attorneys. So we recommend or give recommendations for intellectual property attorneys to give advice on taking action.
At the TTIP office, what are some of the, would you be privy to some of the products that you see inventors or creators bringing forward? Because I know Miss Jack has the UR ruler, but what sort of other products do you see coming out, especially out of TNT?
Okay, so technology, culture, the GPAN, which is owned by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, invented by Professor Brian Copeland. You have the Chubby Bottle, Angostura, a lot of big brands that you see in global markets have rights in Trinidad and Tobago as well as globally.
Globally, interesting. Now I'm coming back to you, Ms. Jacques, because this year's theme focuses entirely on our women and how they are shaping the world through their imagination, ingenuity, and hard work. I mean, what does that mean for you as well as a woman inventor?
I feel very elated to be part of, because there are only 16.5% of inventors that are women, and I feel happy to know I'm part of that 16.5, you know. But I remember you asked a question about what they are doing to talk about intellectual property. They were in Tobago yesterday. We went at Goodwood High School and we went at Roxborough Sec, you know, and I am partnering with intellectual property to spread the word, because there are so many people not taking control of the rights for their product and even filing a simple trademark. Everybody has a brand, and we go on social media and all over the place with this brand. And then we ain't file intellectual property for it, and which is so sad. So, you know, I want to make, in partner with intellectual property, to spread the word about people at least registering their trademark.
Yeah.
So.
Any words of advice for an inventor home right now? Because you mentioned you can have your product and you can sell your product, but you may not go the extra mile of registering it and getting your rights and stuff. Any words of advice for those who are at home and you want to encourage them to, you know, take their business a bit further?
Okay, I will tell you, if you have an invention, please file intellectual property rights for it. Because the thing about it, if, for instance, somebody else copy it and make it, how can you tell them, say that that's mine, that's mine? That's just words. Where is the legal documentation to say that's yours? And for me, I had mine in a drawer for 9 years, but they tell you about the poor man patent, that you do the stuff and you mail it, register mail to yourself. I think that's a good idea if you're not ready, but don't show it to anyone. I told nobody about it, only just a draftsman and my family. Nobody else knew about it. So don't tell it to anybody until you yourself the thing. And if you take too long, somebody may have the same imagination and do the same thing. What you're going to tell the person? That you stole my stuff? Everybody has a mind and everybody can think, because it starts in your mind.
Ms. Jacques, I wonder as well if maybe one of the reasons people are a bit deterred from doing it is the process. Is it a lengthy process to get something or to get the rights and license for your products?
Yes, it is.
I like that you were very honest.
Yes, it's hard work.
It's hard work.
I took 7 years after leaving it in a drawer for 9 years. It took 7 years to bring it to fruition.
But why is it a long process? Is it because you have to go abroad? Is it the documents that you need to fill out? Why is it such a long process?
Well, you have to file intellectual property rights. I've filed different intellectual property rights. And beside that, you have to reach out to companies. And when you reach out to companies, sometimes you have to reach out to 30 companies. And, you know, it's like selling. It's conducting, keep talking to them.
And selling yourself and your product.
Oh, my gosh. The company in Denmark that I've licensed to, 3 o'clock in the morning, that's the time we spoke, because he's 60 hours in front of me, and I had to keep him engaged for 2 years before he licensed the product.
And for those of us who don't know what the product is, just give us a little overview of your product, Ms. Jack.
Right. This is the Dazzle fashion ruler. And it comprises of the L square, the hip curve, this is 2 hip curve, and the armhole curve with a calculator. It is 360 degree, you have 360-degree hinge, which is kind of full.
Ms. Jacques, do you have any idea how far this product has reached in the world?
It's across Europe and Trinidad and Tobago. And, you know, even though it's may not be physically selling in the United States as yet,
yes,
a few people have it there. And the people is talking about it. So I'm trying to get it now into the United States.
Yes, and good luck with that. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Now, Folasade, I'm coming back to you because you would have mentioned that the TTIPO serves as more as an advisory organization. And so what other services will the office offer?
Okay, so we offer, as I mentioned, public outreach. We do IP clinics with Kariri, the Hewitt and Law School. We do schools as well as organizations that invite us to basically, I wouldn't say lecture, but give seminars and workshops on intellectual property.
Nice. And if anybody wants to reach out to the TTIPO, any contact numbers, social media handles?
Okay, so we're located at 3rd floor Capitol Plaza on Frederick Street. Our contact number is 226-4IPO. That's 226-4476. Our social media handles, it's IPO, Trinbago, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And you can email the office to make appointments for consultation at info@ipo.gov.tt. And persons can also visit our website, www.ipo.gov.tt.
And I think having Ms. Jack in your corner as somebody who has done exactly what we're talking about today might be a great benefit. So let me thank you, ladies, so much for coming in. Ms. Jack, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for sharing again and telling us about the process. I loved your honesty because I know people might think it is a lengthy process. It is, but we're seeing the benefits of your labor, and so we appreciate you.
And I just want to say that World Intellectual Property is flying me to Jamaica.
What?
On Sunday.
Yes.
To speak to 32 entrepreneurs about my journey and to inspire them to file intellectual property rights for the product.
Yes, Ms. Jack, always a pleasure. Folasade, thank you so much for coming in this morning, and I hope that we were able to share a bit about what the TTIPO does and the benefits you can reap once you register and license your products. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Here on the Now Morning Show, we're going to take a break. Remember, we're celebrating World Intellectual Property Day next week, Wednesday, on April 26th, and any more information that you have or you want to get, you can reach out to the TTIPO. Here on the Now Morning Show, we're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.